which is 25 million years old. And look, it hasn't changed at all to the modern one. The modern one, the modern caddisfly, is a tide fishing fly. And it's still got its hook. Now you might put that down to not just ignorance but sort of carelessness. Maybe he didn't look very carefully, but I tracked this down to the website where he stole it, which is a website of a champion fishing fly tire. There it is. And you'll notice that the background, you see that sort of grey bit in the background? He's cut it out. He must have worked for a long time in Photoshop on this picture. And he still didn't spot that hook. Or else maybe he thinks that caddisflies really do have hooks. Well, as I was browsing this fishing fly tires website, I came across something else which I thought looked familiar. That's a spider made by the fly tire. It's an artificial spider, very beautifully tied, obviously, and I'm sure it's very tempting to the fish for whom it was designed when on the end of a hook. But I thought it looked familiar, and I went back to Harun Yahya's book, and sure enough, there it is. Look, it hasn't changed at all from the one in amber up at the top. Well, you can't really see very much of the one in amber. It doesn't, even if that was a real modern spider, it wouldn't really make the case very convincingly. Yeah, that's a brittle star, and the modern one is a starfish. And again, you can't get more different as long as you stay an echinoderm. Now back to the fossil, the prize for the fossil intermediate. I wanted to make the point that he's got a very, very weird idea of what an intermediate would look like. This idea of there aren't any intermediate fossils is a favorite one of all creationists, not just Muslim ones, but Christian ones as well. Their constant refrain is, produce your intermediates. There are no intermediates. The fossil record is completely devoid of evolutionary intermediates. This has always puzzled me, because just about every fossil you find is going to be an intermediate between something and something else. And yet they seem to think this is a highly trenchant point that they're making. And it was Harun Yahya who finally dropped the scales from my eyes. The reason why these people think there are no intermediates, they've got a very, very weird idea of what an intermediate would look like. Sorry, that's an old slide. There you see a picture that he's put together with a baby crocodile on the left and some sort of ground squirrel on the right. And what he's saying is, there are no intermediates between crocodiles and squirrels. Well, you know, why would you expect an intermediate? There exists no transitional form. Darwinists claim, I'm quoting now, that by undergoing minor changes, living beings evolve from one species to another over millions of years. According to this claim, which is refuted by scientific findings, fish transformed into amphibians and reptiles transformed into birds. This so-called transformation process, asserted to last for millions of years, should have left countless evidence in the fossil record. In other words, during their intense researches for the last 100 years, researchers should have uncovered many grotesque living beings, such as half fish, half lizard, half spider, half fly, or half lizard, half bird. However, although almost every stratum on Earth has been dug, not even a single fossil has been found that Darwinists can use as evidence for their so-called transition. On the other hand, there are innumerable fossils showing that spiders were always spiders, flies were always flies, fish were always fish, crocodiles were always crocodiles, rabbits were always rabbits, and birds were always birds. Hundreds of millions of fossils clearly show that living beings have not undergone evolution, but were created. Hundreds of millions of fossils prove that living beings did not evolve, but were created. And that picture sums up what he thinks. There's a starfish, there is a fish, and some kind of a photoshopped intermediate. I finally realized what these people think an intermediate fossil is. They think you take a modern animal, and you take another modern animal, and you get some kind of a halfway between. It may be that the back end is one animal and the front end's another, like that. Or you kind of morph from one to the other. They haven't the faintest idea what it is that they are criticizing. And I'm grateful to Mr. Oktar for finally opening my eyes to this weird phenomenon.